Yes, yes indeed. Very interesting.
What, we're reviewing books now? Awesome! I can finally share my 40-page essay on the Mobile Suit Gundam novels written by the anime's director Yoshiyuki Tomino, and discuss how the written word can be used to expand on the subject of...
No, Daizyujin, we're not talking about books. I just thought it was time to add some class and some sophistication into our videos.
We talk about live-action superhero shows for children.
Yes, but today we're going to be talking about a special show. One that proves for the first time that toku can be true art.
Oh, you mean Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Okay, so maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I still think this is an important show for the genre and one worth talking about.
Well, alright then. What is it?
SSSS Gridman.
I know Gridman. That's that one campy early 90s show where the hero fights literal monsters inside of computers.
Yeah, when I first saw commercials for SSSS Gridman, which from here on out I'm just going to call Gridman the anime, I wasn't all that impressed. I didn't have any knowledge or interest in the source material, despite the fact that the animation looked amazing. But I did eventually give it a watch, and by the end I was blown away. Even though it's animation, I think it has a lot to teach live-action shows, especially live-action toku such as Super Sentai.
Someday, Yoshiyuki, your genius shall be known.
Hey, Daizyujin, you ready?
Yeah, Gridman. Let's get this started.
It's time for a transformation sequence. We'll begin with the show that started it all, Hyper Agent Gridman.
3 lovable teenagers, Naoto, Yuka, and Ippei, create a computer together in their spare time which they affectionately name Junk. Meanwhile, a social misfit is angry because he has a crush on Yuka that is unrequited. He has written her a letter but does not have the courage to give it to her, let alone talk to her. He takes out his anger by sending a virus to disrupt the hospital where Yuka's dad works. His dark heart attracts the series' villain, Digifer, who turns Takeshi's designs into monsters to wreak havoc in the digital world. Naoto's brother is being operated on for appendicitis when the hospital's machines are going haywire. Naoto and his friends try to use Junk to get rid of the virus, but are unable to. Naoto's strong desire to save his brother attracts the attention of Gridman. Gridman enters Junk and possesses a drawing of a superhero Ippei made on the computer to represent Junk's protector for his own amusement. He then combines with Naoto to fight off Digifer and Takeshi's monsters.
So the villain is just a petty social miscreant? That sounds kind of lame. Also, what exactly is Gridman? Is he an alien, a computer program? Just what is he?
Takeshi gets a redemption arc at the end. I think it's one of the things that makes Gridman stand out from other toku shows. While it has a traditional villain in the form of Digifer, it also showcases what happens when you don't take any responsibility for your own actions and indulge too much in anger and self-loathing. There's an episode where he has an embarrassing experience at a grocery store. In response, he creates a virus to shut down warehouses, making it so people can't shop there anymore. He doesn't give much thought as to how stopping entire shipments of food will affect the city as a whole. There's also an episode where he disrupts the phone lines because nobody calls him but his mother, and she just tells him things he needs to do. The show doesn't paint him in a bad light because he's smart, nerdy, or weak, but because he's emotionally immature, and that's kind of refreshing for a toku show. Unfortunately, there's never really an explanation given for Gridman. He's a hyper agent from a parallel dimension, but that's all you really get.
These effects look really terrible. Okay, so I actually like the set design for the computer world, and the suits are actually not too bad, but everything else is just so dated, but I guess I have to give some leeway since it's from the 70s.
It was actually made in 1993.
Isn't that the same year that Dairanger was released?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little difficult to be too forgiving of Gridman's shoddy effects when it came out roughly the same time as one of the best-looking Sentai series ever.
In 1994, Gridman was adapted into the show Superhuman Samurai Syber-Squad in America, which from here on out, I'm just going to call Samurai Squad. The basic premise is actually pretty similar to Gridman. Our main character is Sam, who is trying to form a band with his friends Sydney, Tank, and later Amp to impress his crush, Jennifer.
Just gotta get her phone number first.
It's unlisted, Sam. Remember? You looked in every phone book.
And database. I'll get her phone number. Watch and learn, little Nettie.
Yeah, the first episode involves him being kind of a creep and doing things like tricking Jennifer into writing her phone number down as part of a magic trick. It does fortunately get a lot better later. Our villain in this version is also a social miscreant by the name of Malcolm Fink. Malcolm also wants Jennifer's attention, and he doesn't want Sam to go out with her. Just like Takeshi, Malcolm's dark heart attracts the attention of the main villain of the series, the rogue AI Keelan. Keelan is voiced by Tim Curry because it was the 90s, and of course he was. Keelan brings Malcolm's creations to life to cause havoc in the real world. Sam's computer gets hit by a power surge while he is strumming a power chord, which causes him to go into the computer and become the hero Servo. What exactly Servo is and how he came to be is never explained in the show as far as I know. Sam is mentally linked with his computer, and he and his friends enter the digital world and fight off Malcolm and Keelan's megavirus monsters. Like Takeshi, Malcolm makes monsters to take petty revenge on people who he feels have wronged him or to keep Sam from romancing Jennifer. Keelan usually takes Malcolm's monsters and takes the ideas to the extreme for his own purposes. Even though Keelan is constantly betraying Malcolm, Malcolm doesn't have any real friends and ends up having a toxic codependence with Keelan. Unlike Takeshi, Malcolm never gets a full redemption arc, though Sam does try to befriend him in one episode. I liked this series a lot more than I was expecting to. It wasn't great, and unfortunately it's extremely dated both in its effects and by the 90s perception of cool. But the characters were distinct and fun, even if a little one-dimensional. Amp managed to get a couple of laughs out of me.
That's what my brother said when he asked me for lessons.
You taught your older brother?
Well, he was younger then.
Personally, I think Superhuman Samurai Syber-Squad is a much better series than either VR Troopers or Beetleborgs. And it's a real shame that it doesn't get as much love or attention as they do. It's probably because it has a really long and stupid name. Ah! What's happening?
A virus monster has invaded your computer. Don't worry, we can modify your powers to send you in and combat it with the power of... What are you?
Oh, Kumar is just updating my Norton software to deal with virus monsters. Thanks, Kumar. Looks like that malicious malware course we put you through really came in. No, I don't think we've overused this gag yet. Yeah, don't worry. I'll keep that in mind. You were saying something?
Just start talking about the Gridman anime already.
Gridman the anime is a bit of a beast to tackle. I could easily make a 20-minute video just dissecting its components. So, how would I describe Gridman the anime? Well, imagine the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, but Haruhi is aware of her godhood and is the primary antagonist. If you haven't seen the Gridman anime yet and that sounds interesting to you, stop this video and go watch it now, because it is impossible to have any noteworthy conversations about this anime without delving into spoiler territory.
You've all been warned.
Let's get the basic plot synopsis out of the way. Just like with the live-action Gridman, we have three primary protagonists: Yuta, Rika, and Utsumi. Yuta wakes up in Rika's house without any memory of who he is and sees and hears a strange man in an old computer named Gridman telling him that danger is approaching and to not forget his mission. There are also kaiju around the city that only he can see. A kaiju appears and Yuta is forced to combine and fight with Gridman, much like Naoto had to. After the first kaiju fight, our heroes find that the parts of the city that got destroyed by Gridman and the kaiju fighting have been repaired, and that they are the only ones who remember what happened. Rika and Utsumi are also able to see the kaiju in the city now as well. It's revealed that the one making the kaiju is Akane Shinjo, the most popular girl at school. She crafts the kaiju, which are brought to life by the evil shoulder pad enthusiast and Darth Vader cosplayer, Alexis Karab. Yuta and his friends are joined by the Neon Genesis Junior High School students. This is the part of the show which borrows the most from Samurai Squad. In Gridman, Ippei makes the various support mecha that Gridman combines and fights with, but neither he nor Yuka enter the computer world with Naoto. whereas Syber-Squad has Sam's friends enter the computer world with him, piloting the other mecha and fighting alongside him. The names of the Neon Genesis Junior High School students and the mecha that they turn into are the same as Syber-Squad's: Boar, Tracto, and Vito. The SSSS in the title of the show is also a reference to Superhuman Samurai Syber-Squad. It turns out that Akane is in fact this world's god and creator. She uses the kaiju to destroy and recreate the city to rid it of the things she doesn't like. She is so obsessed with making a perfect city that's easy for her to live in that nothing exists outside of it. Like Malcolm and Takeshi, the evil force that brings Akane's kaiju to life, Alexis, is attracted to her dark and broken heart, which leads to the final conflict in which Gridman defeats Alexis and with the help of Yuta, Utsumi, and Rika, convince Akane to go back to her own world to face her problems.
That sounds like a hefty story.
It is, and this is a very, very simplified account. The part of the story we're going to focus on, which most fans and critics seem to agree is the most interesting, is Akane Shinjo.
She doesn't seem that much like Takeshi or Malcolm. She's a social butterfly that everyone loves.
Well, the thing is, Akane didn't just create the city and the world. She also used her kaiju to create the people that inhabit it, and made them so that they would love her.
That is a little messed up. So I need to ask, is she God in a similar sense that I am in Zhu Ranger?
The anime ends with a live-action sequence of a girl who is presumably Akane waking up.
This whole story is a dream? That's it. Time to write a ton of angry comments on Netflix and Hulu and bull.
It's not a dream, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the person who reveals to Yuta the truth about the world he lives in and Akane's kaiju is a kaiju herself. When the kaiju girl reveals this information to Yuta, she tells him that her predecessor owes him a lot. She shows up at the end of the show with another kaiju named Anacilius. Anacilius is in the original show and was saved from being turned evil by Gridman. The connection between these two characters is stronger because, in order to keep Yuta from falling asleep on the train so he can see the empty world outside of the city, she puts headphones in his ears and tells him that there are spirits living in the sound that reach out to the hearts of musicians. This is the exact same explanation given in the original Gridman show for Anacilius' existence. The kaiju girl's shirt also has a treble clef, strengthening her connection to the sound spirits.
That's a really specific reference that would only confuse people who had never seen the original show.
Yeah, I was completely confused by this character till I saw that particular episode of Gridman and made the connection when rewatching this series for this video. The point is, that character's existence clearly marks the anime as a sequel to the live-action show, and since the original live-action show wasn't a dream, neither is this.
Then what are we seeing?
Well, Gridman fights in Computer World, but he's not originally from there. He's from a place called Hyperworld, and if he can travel to the world inside computers from where he's from, it's not a long shot to say he can also enter the worlds of imagination created by humans.
So this show is set in Akane's imagination? Then why does she wake up at the end?
There are multiple ways artists interact with their creations, with dreams just being one of them.
I can buy that. So what is the point of having this show take place in someone's imaginary world?
It connects to this show's primary theme. While the Gridman anime is definitely a classic tokusatsu show through and through, its themes are very modern. In a lot of older toku shows, the running theme was basically along the lines of "Never give up" and "Heroes of justice fight to the end." There are still elements of that in Gridman, but there's a deeper layer as well that explores depression and escapism. Akane created the city of Sutsujidai, there's a reason I've been avoiding saying its name, as an easy place for her to live where she doesn't have to deal with her problems. She's popular and everything is exactly as she wants it to be. But she isn't able to control everything, which is why she has Alexis create kaiju to help her destroy and remake the city.
Why do her creations behave irregularly?
The show never explicitly explains, but I have a few theories. First of all, while Akane created the city to escape real life, she brings her problems from real life in with her. Even though she's popular and loved by everyone, she still spends most of her time alone. Even though everyone wants to hang out with her, she hates group outings and freaks out when people bump into her. Even though she's a god who can create whatever she wants, she lives in a trash-filled room, has cracked glasses, and a cracked phone. She isn't able to control her city because she doesn't have any real control over herself. You can't just put on a mask and be an entirely different person. All your emotional damage and scars are still there. The other theory I have has to come down to the relationship between artist and creation.
Do you think we're getting a bit too meta here? Do you really think the anime's creators made a kaiju show to express an opinion about how we consume and create art?
Maybe not intentionally, but it's still there. And it's the most interesting part of the Gridman anime for me. The final conversations that Akane has with the main characters in particular really spell it out. She realizes that because she is the god of this world, she can't live in it. The heroes even tell her that if she can learn to rely on them and others, that her city and world will grow. And Akane is scared by this. She is afraid of managing a large world. The problem is that Akane created her world entirely for selfish reasons. And unfortunately, this is a trap a lot of artists can easily fall into. There is a lot of attention given to the dangers of escapism for consumers, watching too many movies or playing too many video games. But the dangers of escaping into your own art and worlds isn't something that's brought up as much in mainstream media or shows. I'm guessing most of you have had at least one friend who had a novel they worked on for years but never shared with anyone, or spent all their time writing fanfiction in which they inserted themselves into their favorite world or stories. The problem with this mentality is that it stifles you and constricts the possibilities of whatever world you're trying to construct. Just like watching movies and reading books about people overcoming anxieties and problems similar to yours can help a person deal with their real-life problems, creating art can have a similar effect. It can help you to reflect, introspect, and grow as a person. But that's only going to happen if you share your art and see it as more than just something that exists to personally make you happy. This is why Akane has to leave in the end. Her desire to micromanage a perfect world for herself isn't just bad for her own mental health, but also for her world. Art is something that's meant to be shared and experienced and can only reach its full potential if allowed to grow outside of the confines of its originator's mind. As soon as Akane leaves, the barrier in the sky disappears and the world is suddenly so much bigger now. Instead of just being a refuge to hide in, the world Akane has created can grow alongside her now, and as it expands, help her to gain the knowledge and wisdom to forge a path in her real life.
This is some deep, high-concept stuff for a tokusatsu series.
That's what I think is so impressive about the Gridman anime. At its core, it doesn't stray from its toku roots. It's still about a superhero fighting giant monsters, but it's not afraid to be risky and do something weird. It's also a good tribute to its source material. I had never seen Gridman, but in the final battle where Gridman shows up in his original form with the original series theme song playing, I was pumped. The anime actually made me watch the original series and care about it, which is what any good reboot, remake, or sequel should do. The fact that the Gridman anime manages to be a great tribute to its source material, a good toku show, and have a good storyline expressing complex themes, I don't hesitate to say at all that it is a work of art.
Do you think Super Sentai or other live-action toku shows can learn something from this series?
I certainly do. Sentai in particular. There are a few Sentai shows where the story is held back because they are forcing tropes in just because it's what people expect and it sells toys. Is there really any reason the Lupin Rangers need giant mecha to fight monsters? Their mission isn't to protect the city, they just want to steal the Lupin collection pieces. It makes sense for the Pat Rangers to have mecha to fight with, and their machines are actually in theme with them, but the Lupin Rangers mecha are kind of ugly and don't at all fit in with the thief aesthetic. The only reason they have mecha is because that's what the audience expects, and having two Sentai teams with two mecha sets can allow for more toy sales. And that plan failed pretty miserably in the case of Lupin vs. Pat Ranger.
Yes, I hate to admit it, but I think the 2017 Power Rangers Megazord design is more appealing than Kaiser Lupin.
The Gridman anime uses the tropes that are useful for its story, but throws away the stuff that isn't. It would have been very easy for Trigger to just make a show where another group of teens make her discover their own junk, and one of them merges with Gridman to fight off another monster that's influenced the digital world and is making monsters for a troubled teen. But they didn't. They made a story no one would have expected them to be able to. From frickin' Gridman. Just like Akane is strangling her world with her insecurities, live-action toku can strangle its own worlds by adhering too much to conventions and formulas. It's the main reason why I think the Heisei Kamen Rider series has dwarfed Super Sentai in popularity in recent years. There are just more chances and risks being taken in shows like O's, Build, and even Geo. Gridman the anime is definitely worth your time if you're a toku fan. You don't need to watch either Samurai Squad or the original series to enjoy it, but brushing up on them can help you understand more of the references and deepen your appreciation for not just the anime, but I would say tokusatsu in general. Daizyujin, buddy, what are you doing?
Nothing, just,
It's okay, you can tell me.
You'll just think it's stupid.
I promise I won't. What is it?
Just a story where I help Sonic defeat Robotnik and bring peace to Mobius. I knew you would think it was stupid.
No, I think it's great. I think Sonic the Hedgehog would be much more entertaining with giant dinosaur-themed robots. Why don't you read it to me?
Really?
Yeah, it sounds like fun. That's all for now. To all the artists out there, don't be afraid to share your work with the world. And as always, remember, may the power protect you.